They were considered cursed, shunned by their neighbors, and hidden away in the remote hills of Appalachia. But the Fugates weren't diseased, they were just blue. For over a century, deep in the isolated hollows of Troublesome Creek, Kentucky, a family lived with a secret that made them outcasts in their own community. Their skin wasn't the pale white of their Appalachian neighbors, nor was it touched by any recognizable illness. It was blue, a deep, vivid blue that made them look like creatures from another world. This is the true story of the Blue Fugates, one of the most bizarre medical mysteries in American history. The arrival of Martin Fugate. The year was 1820. A French orphan named Martin Fugate arrived in the rugged, unforgiving mountains of eastern Kentucky, seeking a fresh start in the American frontier. He was a peculiar man, not because of his character, but because of his complexion. Martin's skin held an unusual blue tint, a characteristic so subtle that most people dismissed it as a trick of the light or perhaps the shadow of the dense forest canopy. Martin fell in love with a local woman named Elizabeth Smith, a red-haired, pale-skinned settler of Scottish descent. They married and settled in the remote area of Troublesome Creek, far from prying eyes and the judgment of strangers. What Martin didn't know, what no one could have known in that era, was that Elizabeth carried the same hidden genetic secret that coursed through his veins. When their children were born, 4 out of 7 came into the world with skin the color of a bruised blueberry. The community was horrified. Neighbors whispered about witchcraft, demonic possession, and divine punishment. In an age where superstition ruled and medical science was primitive, the Fugate children were treated as abominations. Some said they weren't fully human. Others refused to let their own children play with them. The family retreated deeper into the mountains, building their lives in isolation where judgment couldn't reach them. Generations of blue, but isolation in Appalachia came with consequences. The mountain communities were small, tightly knit, and families often intermarried due to limited options. The Fugates married their cousins, their neighbors, people who unknowingly carried the same recessive gene. With each generation, more blue children were born. By the 1960s, the Fugate family had grown into a small clan scattered across the Kentucky hills. They lived normal lives, farming, raising children, working honest jobs, but always with that unmistakable blue skin that marked them as different. They became known as the Blue People of Kentucky, a source of local legend and medical curiosity. Children would stare. Adults would point. Some families refused to do business with them. Despite their isolation, word of the blue-skinned family spread beyond the mountains. Some called them cursed. Others believed they were aliens. A few thought they were the result of mining accidents or chemical exposure from the coal industry that dominated the region. But the truth was far more extraordinary and entirely biological. The breakthrough, in 1960, a young hematologist named Dr. Madison K. Wayne III arrived at the University of Kentucky's medical clinic. He was ambitious, curious, and fascinated by unusual blood disorders. When he heard rumors of blue people living in the nearby mountains, he thought it was folklore, an Appalachian tall tale told around campfires. Then one day, a woman walked into his clinic. Her name was Luna Fugate Stacy, and her skin was as blue as the summer sky. Dr. K. Wayne was stunned. This wasn't a story, this was real. Luna explained that she and her family had always been this way, that it didn't hurt, didn't make them sick, and had been passed down through generations. She had come not because she was suffering, but because she was curious. Could modern medicine finally explain what her ancestors couldn't? Dr. K. Wayne immediately began investigating. He took blood samples, studied family genealogies, and traced the Fugate lineage back through decades of marriages and births. What he discovered was astonishing. The Fugates suffered from a rare genetic condition called methemoglobinemia. Their blood contained an abnormally high level of methemoglobin, a form of hemoglobin that cannot effectively carry oxygen. While normal hemoglobin turns blood bright red, methemoglobin gives blood a dark brownish-blue color. When this discolored blood circulates just beneath pale skin, it creates a striking blue appearance. The condition was harmless. The Fugates weren't sick, they just looked different. And because it was a recessive trait, it only appeared when two carriers had children together. The isolation and intermarriage of the Appalachian Mountains had created the perfect conditions for this rare gene to flourish. The cure. But Dr. Cowain didn't stop at diagnosis. He wanted to help. After weeks of research, he discovered a simple treatment. Methylene blue, an inexpensive dye used in chemistry labs. When injected into the bloodstream, it converted methemoglobin back into normal hemoglobin. He gathered members of the Fugate family and administered the treatment. Within minutes, the impossible happened. The blue faded, their skin turned pink. For the first time in their lives, they looked like everyone else. Luna Stacy stared at her hands in disbelief, tears streaming down her now pink cheeks. After generations of being mocked, of being outcast, of being called cursed, they were finally free. Some family members chose to take the treatment regularly. Others proudly refused. They had lived their whole lives as blue, and they weren't ashamed. Benjamin Stacy, a descendant born in 1975, came into the world with blue skin, the last known Fugate to display the condition. As the family dispersed and married outside their isolated community, the gene pool diluted. The blue people of Kentucky faded into history. The story of the Fugates teaches us a profound lesson about difference, fear, and understanding. For over a century, this family was treated as cursed, abnormal, and less than human, not because they were dangerous, diseased, or defective, but simply because they looked different. Their condition was harmless, a quirk of genetics no more meaningful than eye color or height. Yet fear of the unknown turned neighbors into enemies. Superstition replaced compassion, and an entire family was forced into isolation because society couldn't accept what it didn't understand. How many times do we still do this today? How often do we judge, exclude, or fear people simply because they don't look like us, speak like us, or live like us? The Fugates' blue skin was not a curse, it was just genetics. But the real curse was the prejudice they endured. The next time you encounter someone different, whether in appearance, culture, belief, or ability, remember the blue Fugates of Kentucky. Remember that what seems strange or frightening is often just misunderstood. Before you judge, before you whisper, before you turn away, ask questions, seek understanding. Choose curiosity over fear. Because the greatest tragedy isn't being different. It's being treated as less than human because of it. Share this story. Let it remind us all that our differences make us fascinating, not frightening, and that compassion will always be more powerful than fear. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's support our amazing world history.